The honourable member for Calgary-Lougheed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's been a full year since the NDP government released their $11 billion deficit budget. And since then, the tax burden on Albertans has grown every day. The cost of living has actually gone up with the NDP, while Albertans are unemployed in troubling economic times. To the Premier, as your government continues to set historic records on taxing and spending, will you admit what Albertans already know, that the jobs plan was a failure and has made the tax burden worse for Albertan families?
The honourable Premier.
Well, you know, Mr. Speaker, I do find it interesting that a member opposite, who comes from a caucus that could not balance the budget when oil was at $90 a barrel, is now complaining about the size of deficits with this government. But, you know, it was interesting. They did at least, unlike their friends over there, introduce a shadow budget, which was lovely. The problem is that it took less time to debunk the PC budget than it did for their leader to file a suit with the Ethics Commissioner, Mr. Speaker. And that's because their budget has more holes in it than the Kananaskis golf course, Mr. Speaker. And the reality is we're standing up for Albertans in tough times, and we'll...
Thank you.
First supplemental. Order, please. First supplemental. Order.
Stop blaming and start governing.
Order.
Budget town halls were open to all Albertans instead of just...
Honourable member, just wait a minute. Let's quiet down, folks. Stop the clock for just a moment. Start again, please.
Stop blaming, start governing. If budget town halls were open to all Albertans instead of just NDP buddies, you would know exactly what Albertans think. Now, since the last budget, we've seen the NDP cause real pain with policies like the carbon tax and then demanding rebate checks back from grieving families. It suggests the NDP want to take credit for dishing out cash but ignore the fact that this money already belongs to the taxpayer. So to the Premier, will you begin to actually help Alberta families by taking real action on lowering tax burdens instead of taking a lot of money out of one of their pockets and giving just a little bit back in the other?
Honourable Premier.
Well, Mr. Speaker, you know, the member opposite is suggesting that we follow their lead, but the problem is they're talking about taking over $4 billion out of operating expenses in 1 year, Mr. Speaker. They want to cut culture and tourism by $50 million. They want to take, and here's the best, Mr. Speaker, $600 million out of advanced education. So when Albertans are looking for support during economic tough times, these guys want to close the doors to our universities from struggling families. We won't do that, Mr. Speaker.
Now, back to reality. We don't need to wait until 3 o'clock to know that a typical NDP budget includes out-of-control spending with credit downgrades to follow. So to the Premier, who is currently reviewing collective bargaining in which the public sector wage increases remain steady while the average wage of Albertans has decreased, will you further increase the tax burden on Albertans by handing over a better deal to union comrades while Albertans struggles? Or in other words, will you put union families above other Alberta families? Please say no.
Mr. Speaker, as we've said many times before, our government respects the negotiated contracts, and we will negotiate with them with respect when those contracts come up. But you know what we did do, Mr. Speaker? We went into those insider deals for CEOs and agencies, boards, and commissions, and we passed legislation so that nobody could earn $800,000 a year, Mr. Speaker, under their watch. We rolled those salaries back because that's what standing up for Albertans looks like, Mr. Speaker.